Hey y'all, today I'm going to talk a little bit about this fiber thing that I call duos, and I'm sure there's other dyers out there that make something similar, but this is something that I've been doing for a long time. I really like doing it. It's a fun way to work with a progression and an almost solid. I've done large pieces and small pieces, and when I dye them and sell them, I call them duos. And basically what it is most of my duos are 2 ounces of a progression paired with 2 ounces of an almost solid, and together we're going to apply them together. And this is a sock that I made from a duo. You can see that this toe is all pink. Just kind of wanted a different toe. So this is actually this. It's a different dye lot. You know, every time you dye it, it's a little different. But it's very similar to the ones that I used to make this. So I had a bunch of questions when I put a new batch of these out for sale. And I wanted to show you how I use them. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can use them. But I'm just going to show you how I use them and how I'm going to prep this next fiber for myself to use. So, let me set that aside. Since I've already done that colorway, I want to do a different colorway. And this is the Blue Face Leicester one. And so it's this and this. These are the two that come together. And it's called Haunted Sleigh Ride. So, basically, if I want to make like 2 mittens or 2 socks, I don't want one mitten to be all, this limey color and green, and then the other one to be purple and green. I want them to be, to kind of go together. So what I do is, let's see, I undo it. And it's still fairly long, but you can see that it progresses from one color to the other. It's a nice gradient. And there was the other video, if you go to my page and you look, that I just did on how to make a gradient from a regular hand paint that you have. You can do this with that. The basic idea is using a gradient and an almost solid to create something like this that kind of grades from one color to the other. It's a nice, soft, slow fade. So, I don't need both socks or both mittens. I'm probably going to make socks out of this to be identical. So I just kind of peel open from the center. Kind of want to keep everything as halvesy as it looks to me. And that's it. Basically, that's that 2 ounce piece of fiber prepped. So I will spin it all the way from the purple end through the darker green into this limey color. So that's it. One bobbin will have this on it for one sock. For doing the other sock, I'll do this other one. You can put them on the same bobbin, but you just got to make sure that you separate them, or so that you have 2 separate ones. Now, I can tell just by feeling it that this one's slightly heavier than this one. So if I'm a stickler for it and really want them similar, I can weigh them and take some strips off. I can add some fiber. When I'm starting to spin, I can be, more particular about it. I can, it's not always going to be absolutely perfect. And that's one of the nice things about doing something like this, is that it doesn't have to be, because if my pink fade goes up to here on one sock and my green fade comes down to here on that sock, it's not going to be super duper noticeable, like as if you're missing a complete stripe. So there's that. I'm going to stick that in the bin because I'm going to spin that later. So those will be one bobbin, one sock, one bobbin, the other sock. And this is the almost solid. you can tell on this one that the Almost Solid has a little bit more white in it. And I like it that way. And you can see that it's got a lot of variation, especially up in here. This is the brown section of the whole thing. So this is brown on brown. You can see that there's more variation. And that's what I like. I like there to be variation. So I keep the fibers variated more. And so there's this. But what I don't want is if I spun from end to end on this Almost Solid, I'm going to be getting a really dark section and then a really light section. And that's not what I prefer. So for this one, I am going to peel off strips. And that is going to help me blend it down enough that I'm going to have more variegated sections. So you'll see as you spin, and if you're spinning fine, because I'm spinning for socks, so I'll be spinning fine. So this isn't so thin that I won't still be drafting at the wheel. And it's important that you draft at the wheel, otherwise you end up with a very dense yarn. I can't remember if I've talked to you guys about that yet, but maybe we'll talk about that again at another time, because it's a whole long video on its own. So I will just keep splitting this down into small bits, because mostly I pre-draft for color. I am still going to draft at the wheel. So you can see it's still thick enough that I'm going to be having to draft at the wheel. So all my drafting is still at the wheel, but I'm pre-drafting for color. All my pre-drafting that I generally do is for color. If I have to pre-draft to make the fiber usable, I'm really not going to be happy with that fiber, and I tend to just get rid of it. So you can see I got a couple little nests here, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to spin one bobbin with all of this on it, and then if I need to, 2 separate bobbins or 1 bobbin that has these separated. So this will be one sock, this will be the other sock, and they're just going to be plied with the black. And that's that. And that's how I use a duo. There's a bunch of different ways that you could use them. You could even do, you know, one that's all solid and one that's all, you can split this up into a bunch of different ones. So you could do a bunch of thinner stripes that move through. But if you want the sock to look like this, or a mitten that looks like this, that goes from one color through to the other color in a soft variation, this is how I get to do that. So come up with your own method. If you've got something that you want to try, that you want to do, give it a shot. And then tell us about it down below in the comments. I want to hear if there's something new that you guys are doing, because I love what you guys come up with. All right. Happy spinning, y'all.